We are recording.
We are recording. All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the January 22nd, 2024 Township Committee Meeting held at 7 p.m. at the Municipal Building, 770 Coopertown Road in Delanco. We have a roll call, please.
Ms. Fitzpatrick? Here. Mr. Olet?
Here.
Ms. Seuss? Here. Mr. Templeton?
Here.
Mr. Bartlett?
Here. Also present, Mr. Schwab, our Township Administrator, Mrs. Laura, Municipal Clerk, Mrs. Russell, Deputy Municipal Clerk, Mr. Fenimore, the Superintendent of Public Works, and Mr. Tilger, the Police Chief. Will you please rise for the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The sunshine statement, please, Janice.
Please be advised that proper notice of this meeting has been given in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act in the following manner. Written notice has been mailed to the Burlington County Times and Courier Post and published in the January 4th, 2024 editions. Written notice has been posted on the official bulletin board of the Township of Delanco at least 48 hours prior to the meeting.
All right, thank you. Meeting is now open to the public for any comments or questions. This is session number 1. If you have any comments or questions, please approach the podium, give your name and address for the record. Meeting's now open to the public. And there will be another session later on as well. All right, seeing no one who wants to come forward, meeting is closed to the public. Comments and reports. Start with the Township Administrator, Mr. Schwab.
Okay, thank you. Number one, to remind you, 3:30 tomorrow, we have our first budget work session, and Public Works and Police will be making their presentations. And normally, I have to apologize, normally I have a lot of information for you in advance, but I was not able to get it to you with everything going on, so we will get it to you at the meeting and go over things. So we will see everybody tomorrow at 3:30. Other things to report, I think, John, you're going to talk about snow stuff, so I don't have to bring that up. That's John's job. I'm not sure whether they're going to call it correspondence, but we got a notice from New Jersey American Water that they're filing for rate increase. And one of the things that municipalities sometimes do is get involved in those cases. It takes a little while, but something to keep in mind is if anyone is interested in getting involved in that. As we mentioned before, PSE&G has also filed for a rate increase, and you can think about whether or not someone wants to get involved in looking at that. There was correspondence, and they'll mention this correspondence, but I'm bringing up here about the new state development plan. Every X number of years, the state comes up with this plan that then affects everybody, and there's what's called cross acceptance, and the county is the one who will be talking to the state planning commission about anything that goes on in our county. But if Delanco wants to have any input, someone has to then be in contact with the county and find out how to get input to the county about what Delanco would like to see in that plan. Report, we received bids for the Field of Dreams maintenance a couple weeks ago, and the low bidder this time was a different vendor by several $1,000s, and our landscape architect has reviewed it and is making recommendations, so we'll probably have it on the next meeting, subject to input from REC. The low bidder is what's the name? McHugh Landscaping out of Moorestown/Delran. So he's always been number 2 or number 3 each time. So the same 3 keep bidding, and this first time had somebody lower than TLC. So you'll see that recommendation coming in. It should be on your agenda for the December 5th meeting, unless we hear otherwise. You also saw correspondence from DEP, follow-up to our engineers' submittal for the seawall work at the waterfront park in front of the mansion, that DEP did issue a conditional permit, and Harry is going to go over this in some detail at the next meeting about timetable, costs, et cetera, but it was based on what we talked about at the previous meeting, and we'll believe it or not, be moving forward on that after a long period of time. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Richard. Very good news that we finally got that permit. All right, department heads, start with the chief.
Good evening, thank you. I'll start out with our statistics for January up to date, including today. We've initiated 12 police cases. There have been 69 motor vehicle stops conducted. There have been 36 motor vehicle violations issued. There have been 5 motor vehicle crashes that have been handled, and 6 adult arrests and 5 contempt arrests. I want to now report on some communication I received from a resident on Wilson Way. He reached out to me via email to stress concerns about Newton's Landing Boulevard and Emery Way. He cited that there's been an increase of traffic doing U-turns there. Currently, it is allowed. There's no restriction to it. And he complained that the driving schools specifically have really been utilizing that intersection, and it's causing some safety concerns to the public for pedestrians and vehicle traffic. After I received the email, I went out on 3 different occasions and monitored. While doing so, I was surprised how much traffic from the driving schools actually were utilizing not only that intersection, but also the one at Newton's Landing Boulevard in Pennington. After doing so, I spoke to Township Engineer Harry Fox, conferred with him, and my recommendation would be to incorporate it in our code to make it no U-turns at both intersections, not only the one, just because I do see how there could be a fear for public safety with especially pedestrians walking. So I would present that to the committee to consider. Following point, Recruit Orff is into his 14th week at the Atlantic County Police Academy. Good news, he completed all firearms training last week. That concluded the 2 weeks firearms training, and he did pass, so another hurdle that he's gotten through. We're working with our JIF coordinator, Aaron Provenzano. We're scheduling First Amendment auditor training for February 20th. There's still a few of our officers that have not received it. A portion have, but we're going to have retired Chief of Police Keith Hummel responding here on the 20th to conduct the training, and it's valuable training that I think especially our newer officers will benefit from. So we're looking forward to completing that. I'm not sure if I should wait to brief on Ryan Kearns, since it's on the agenda.
They'll just make the appointment unless anyone's got questions. Yeah. You can just point out that it's on the agenda to appoint him.
Yeah. So Ryan Kearns is on the agenda for he was offered a conditional offer of employment with us to be our next officer. As Township Administrator advised, on tomorrow afternoon, I'll be presenting my police budget to the committee. And a final note, I just want to thank John and his crew. You know, I probably don't do it enough, but during the storms, you know, they're the ones that keep us safe, because we can't get to our calls for service without the job they do. So just want to go publicly thank John and his crew. And that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you very much.
Chief, I have a question. The U-turn, don't they have to be done by ordinance? I remember bringing that up a couple of years ago when
That's what, yeah,
the
that's
people
what I'm
at-
recommending.
Yeah, so that was going to be, I was going to say, if you all agree that this is something you want to
Need an
consider,
ordinance.
we'll put the ordinance on the agenda for the February 5th meeting.
Yeah, I have the ordinance number.
Yeah, we've got it all ready to go, but
All right, yeah, well, why don't we do that?
is there any
Mike Byrne, you
reason
guys
not
agree
to?
with
Are there any other U-turn issues? West Avenue with the median, is that,
That's something I'd have to monitor. We haven't gotten complaints.
Okay.
You know, we're specifically.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, this
So-
complaint came through a
so
couple
I,
of years ago, too.
I wanted to go see for myself. I mean, obviously, it's no secret that the driving schools are
Yeah.
utilizing Newton's Landing, and, you know, they're public roadways, so there's not much we can do to say you can't use the roadways, but when it becomes a safety hazard or they're doing something illegal, then you know, I take it into consideration to really evaluate the urgency of it. And this one, after seeing it on 3 different occasions, the way it was being utilized, I definitely recommend it. So, and it would fall under the schedule for
Good.
under Code 295-45, U-turns prohibited.
And I think you did rate it as driving schools at one time, didn't you?
I did, and my contact at the MVC, he's great. It's just he's been telling me they've got a lot of pop-up schools, and when they're technically not doing anything illegal, it's kind of hard to tell them that,
Right.
you know, we shouldn't
Well,
be
this is
doing it.
good. At least it'll be resolved.
I think the point you made in your email about, let them go a few hundred yards through the traffic circle where they could learn how to navigate a traffic circle. That's
Yeah, the resident
Valid
brought that
point.
up, and it was valid. So.
Yeah.
That's good. I'm glad that's going to be resolved.
Okay. So
Thank you.
we'll put the introduction on the agenda for the 5th, and then the next meeting you'll have the public hearing adopted. That way we can also let Newton Planning and Point people know that there's going to be a public hearing in case they have any
Right.
comment.
Very good. Anyone have any questions for the chief?
Chief, that training, the Chief Hummel was coming in,
Yeah.
February 20th. What's that again? I
It's
couldn't,
First Amendment auditors, so it's really prevalent right now. You have people come to government buildings and they test the employees to see their knowledge of what they're allowed to do, what they're not allowed to do. They come in with video cameras, they'll walk around the parking lot, look in personal vehicles, and just to see if, we're knowledgeable on what they're allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do, so.
so that's open for the municipal staff as well, administration?
I believe Aaron said it is, yes. The Public Works, our office,
Good.
the staff, administrative staff.
Perfect.
Thanks.
All right. Mr. Fenimore, you've had a quiet week, right?
Quiet month.
Well, it's been 3 years since we plowed, so kind of in a learning process, but
Got the cobwebs off the plows, right?
yeah, and you find all the problems, the plow don't go up, don't go down, and you work through it. But the first storm, we had 4 trucks, we put 4 trucks together, clear the whole town, try to keep the town clear. And then towards the end of the storm, that's when we put the salt down, and you don't put salt on top of snow and then plow it off. That's just wasting it. So that's what we did. And each one of the 4 trucks, they put on 121 miles, and they put out 22 tons of salt the first storm. The second storm, we did 174 miles times 4 trucks, and we put out 24 tons of salt. The second storm, we hit 2 times, we went through the whole town 2 times, and unfortunately, sometimes it takes a little bit longer to get through, and, especially since we haven't plowed in a while, was something a little new. But one of the nice things that we had is, after each snowstorm, people don't realize that we have all these sidewalks we have to clear. We have Town Hall now, we have the Public Works now, we got Hickory Street, we got Gateway Park, we got the Pocket Park, we have the Columns, we have Perkins Lane. So, we have a lot of ground, and that is left on us guys who've been plowing for a certain amount. But the 2 young guys that we had, they stayed up on everything, just doing Town Hall, trying to keep that clear. It was nice because after the storm, we didn't have to worry about going out and shoveling. We got to do the gas pumps, we got to make sure of that so nobody slips and falls. And it just, it gets old, but it's got to get done. And it was nice to have these young guys in there helping us this year. It really was. And that's about it. That's all I got.
Yes, I saw Brian and Harry running around like crazy, all floating the
We
snow
have
blower.
some properties that, if I took you down in the truck, because we got 3 properties, we call them the holes. Well, there's actually, 3 spots that we do. And none of my guys like to do it, so I get stuck doing it. And that's the dirt road down the end of Delaware. It goes to the back of Mallers. And then we put the right-of-way in that goes on the other side of Mallers down to the thing. And with all the weight of the snow, all the branches are down, and I'm like, oh, geez. And it's all dirt roads. So it's very difficult to plow to begin with. But the other one, the other hole off of Orchard is really bad. To go in and to try to push the snow and to maneuver it gets scary. Usually I try to do it with the loader, but sometimes the loader's too big because all the cars are in there, and you try to navigate around all these cars. Nobody will come out and say, well, let me move my car, you know, and then we get it done, so.
So we can't forget all the flooding we had, what, 2 weeks ago now?
I don't know if anybody took a look at the boat ramp with all the stuff we got off there, so that was
Yeah.
another thing that, you know, and then we had the flooding in the streets, which brought up all this debris. I mean, we hauled a lot of debris away so far, and we haven't even finished the boat ramp, so it's, the weather is coming on us now, you know. But it was a little strange plowing since 3 years, 3 years.
And it'll be 63 degrees this Friday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's
Yeah.
good.
And we're having more rain, and the full moon is the 25th, so there may be more flooding. This is the first year in the 29 years that I've lived at the residence I have right now that the water actually came up in my backyard, all the way up, and it's never done that.
I know somewhere along the line, we got to work on the bridge thing.
Yeah.
Some kind of a valve put in there to help.
Yeah,
You know, flooding like that, it's not going to stop it. You know, we got to remember one thing that I don't think people realize, that all the silt from everything, all the streets in the towns, where does it go? It goes into the creek and into the river. And it's all filling up.
yep,
And when you fill a bowl up, it's just going to overflow. And, you know, the river's got to be dredged, the creek's got to be dredged. You can do whatever you want to do, but there's so many of these areas that have silted up that we're not really thinking about it, you know, like Boggs Ditch. When I started here, that was a beautiful, running, nice ditch. Wildlife like you wouldn't believe. You can practically walk across it, you know, it's so bad now, and it's a shame, you know, and like the river, the flooding out down along the river on, you know, the Robbins Way there. I mean, that was bad. That's one of the highest times I've seen it.
There and down over by, just past the mansion by Stockton's house, over there,
Yep.
That's
at
what
the
he's
end of
talking about.
Delaware.
Well-
No, you're talking about
Oh,
Robbins
yes,
Lane,
Stockton.
yeah. Stockton's, I guess, I think I was like 7 years old. 1958 maybe, the storm down there, they came and tied my grandfather's houseboat to the telephone pole so it wouldn't float away, and the river actually was up to 2nd Street, because we had a rowboat down there rowing on 2nd Street. And I have pictures where there was a tree next to my grandfather's house, there was a little house on the other side, and the water was halfway up the tree. That's how high the river was at that time. It was, I think it was Hurricane Hazel. Unbelievable. So we haven't had any flooding like
At the end
that.
of Poplar Street in Rancocas, that was flooded out.
That
Yeah, I
was-
saw that
yeah.
at McQuaid's house, yeah.
I could not believe all the debris. I like, where did all this debris come from? We usually had to use backpack blowers and go from Rancocas and blow everything up to the other side of Rancocas, going up Poplar. That's how bad it was.
Yeah.
I mean, we had to pick it up with the loader.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a mess, because I picked up 2 trash cans full of debris that was left in my yard from the water. Just my yard. I mean, and I have a very small yard, so I can't imagine how some of these other properties manage.
I know Matt and I were out the whole week monitoring the flooding, visited with some residents, and have some thoughts, kind of, you know, on our non-engineering thoughts. But I know we're going to talk more about that, I think, at our next meeting when Harry's here.
Right, and I had emailed Harry and Chris Knoll, because I really think we need an engineer who specializes in stormwater management along the river. I mean, we need somebody who can actually come in, and I think maybe Kathleen's property may need, I don't even think she has a seawall. So,
They have like a makeshift where they blow
yeah,
in concrete.
and Boggs Ditch we have to do something
that-
different there, but that's what we
everybody-
need.
we got a
We
lot
need
to
an
do.
engineer who specializes,
That is the lowest part of town right there.
yeah.
So that water's gonna come up there. It's not the new, we dug it out and, you know, it goes over top of that.
No, it was-
So, and it just fills in. I mean,
It was
that was
going,
bad.
it was flowing right over.
Wow, that was bad.
That was
I
really
mean,
bad.
I've seen it probably just as high.
Yeah.
And
Years
I
before.
wondered about the storm drains, because I saw water even coming up from them.
It's going right through.
It's very hard to stop water,
Yeah,
found out.
It's the most powerful thing.
Yeah, and I did have some initial conversations regarding the bridge flooding. I'll bring that up when I get to my report.
I mean, you know, technically, the little stuff, the little flooding, the last couple of floodings we've had, that's gonna be hard, that's gonna be very hard to stop. But the little ones, I mean, then they call me up, and then I gotta send my guys out, and it's not even for Delanco, you know what I mean? It's for
Yeah.
Riverside. It's something that could be an easy fix.
right,
Put one of
and,
those duck
yeah,
bills in to stop that water from coming back up.
Right,
You
exactly.
got two spots, that's where it comes up.
Right.
You know, but
I had sent a letter to their engineer. I CC'd Matt with my email that I sent Sasha Harding, the engineer of the Bridge Commission. And I had made a suggestion as to what was suggested here at our township meeting. It was last year or the year before. And he called me on the phone. He will never put anything in writing, but he said they had no plans of doing that one valve or whatever is needed there. And I did send you that email.
I didn't get that.
I sent you the email. It may, you know what, it may have came up on a different email address, because the second time I went to send you something else, the other email address came up, but I'll send it to you again. I did send it Sasha Harding. I had a list for him.
Since we're talking about it now, I'll just bring up, I met with Mayor Kimball from Riverside, and just trying to come up with just a game plan on how to move forward with getting this flooding issue in Riverside fixed. And we both agree it should not be on Delanco, it should not be on Riverside. This is clearly a county issue, on a county road. When I spoke to the Bridge Commission, they basically said that the bridge isn't flooding. And they're right, the bridge is not flooding.
Right.
It has not been underwater, thank God. That'd be a whole different issue. But the county, as you know, the owner of the road, they need to work on a solution here. So we have some thoughts on how to get that. I've also looped in my contact over the County Office of Emergency Management, and they're going to work on this as well with us, and just to try to come up with some sort of solution here. And I looked at it, I was out there countless times over that week when the flooding was occurring on both sides, and you could clearly see what storm drains is coming out of on the Riverside side, and you could see right where it's going in, low tide, right where the outlet is into the creek. And, you know, putting a duck valve on there, just like we did at the end of Hickory, that really needs to be investigated by them, and it's a good solution. You know, it worked for us on Hickory. You know, it won't stop. You know, if it's raining, of course, the water's still going to go, it's still going to pool up there if it's above high tide, but the majority of the time when we had the flooding last week was when it was not raining, and the water, just that high tide was coming up.
Yeah.
So, you know, we have some thoughts on that. We're going to continue to press on that. I'm going to, now that the county OEM might be caught up after the few events over the last week, I'm going to schedule some time to sit with them and keep everybody informed on how we're making out, because that is one concern we have as far as, you know, and I get it's a complete inconvenience for the residents not to be able to make it across, but I'm more concerned about emergency services with fire trucks needing to respond to both towns back and forth, ambulances coming between towns, police if you need to back up each other, and having to loop all the way around down 130, you're adding precious time.
It was nice to see the police department, the OEM, and Public Works, and even the Bridge Commission working together to notify the residents in unison when the closures were happening and the openings were happening, because that was a rough week for that. So it was nice to see all the communication and coordination.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think between the chief and I, we finally figured out who's talking to whom or who's not talking to whom within the various, you know, the Bridge Commission calling, or the Riverside calling the Bridge Commission to let them know to shut it down, then them not passing it back on to everybody else. But we got that worked out, and everyone was getting the alerts afterwards. So it worked out well toward the end of it, and hopefully that keeps up. God forbid we have more flooding with the, you know, more rain this week.
Melting snow.
But I've been watching the tide charts. Hopefully we'll be good this week still. But I'm not going to jinx myself.
I think on a positive note, the work that we had done on clearing out the drains along Hickory Street from the resident that lives at the corner of, I think it's Cooper Town Road and Hickory, right across from the ballpark.
Yeah.
They said that intersection had not flooded yet, that they didn't experience some of the things that we had in the past. And again, timing-wise, you know, we had the storm, but prior to that, we had the crew in there, I guess, or Harry did, cleaning out those drain lines, even though they weren't cleared 100%, whatever roots and things they got out of there helped.
And during the heavy rain, when it did flood, once the tide subsided, it went down right away.
Went down right away, yeah.
So that worked out great. That's a very good point, Vern.
I thought the county owned from the bridge on our side to the linking link around the bend, and then they owned, the Bridge Commission owned from the bridge on Riverside to the lake. I thought that that's what they were responsible. Now, I talked to the county guy, and he says, you know, he was like, well, it is the Bridge Commission's, but they're gonna push it on me, and so he was trying to look to say, you know, but just so you know.
I don't care which
Yeah.
one of them fixes it,
It
as long
doesn't-
as someone fixes it.
It
Yeah,
just-
when I sent that
You know, it's not
email,
gonna fix everything. It's not
No.
gonna, you know, you get severe flooding like this, you can't, it's almost impossible. But the little stuff that we just have to block off, you know, it'll stop that. It'll,
And that was such a simple, what did it cost us, $8,600 for the duck valve
Yeah.
over at Hickory Street? Such a simple solution that, you know, could be done. And just got to get the right people to look into it. Hopefully we will.
this is how we did it.
Did anyone else have any questions for Mr. Fenimore?
Well done. Thank you.
Very good. Let's go, Mrs. Lore.
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Didn't want to forget you there.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go to Township Committee reports. Start to my right, Mr. Elect.
Let's see, the library board did not meet in the beginning of January because we had the state of emergency that had been declared
Right.
for that rainstorm that we had. For the history board, we had a reorganization meeting, and the chairperson will be, is Peter Fritz, vice chair is Alma Jordan, and treasurer is Ron Naylor. We still have an open position for the secretary position. The history board, whether it's a discussion that we need to have at the end, but we would like to, we're proposing to, or asking that we're able to use town hall here. We have the displays out front, but we'd like to, on the third Saturday of each month, from 1 to 3, to be able to have the lobby open and have 2 representatives from the history board present to be able to explain the displays or give presentations here at Town Hall. Also, it would require the liaison or one of the committee people to be present in the lobby during the time that the history board would be using the lobby to have it open to the public. Again,
I heard you volunteer there, right?
well, as a liaison, yes, I would be present, and if I couldn't, then I would try and recruit one of our fellow township people, committee people to take my spot.
I think
But
that's
it'd
a
be the
great
third
idea.
Tuesday of the month,
Saturday.
or Saturday, yes, Saturday of the month, and during that time, it may, you know, whether we add on to that, that we have literature in the lobby that folks can't get to during the normal week of our township building being open. We close at 4:30. Where on a Saturday afternoon, at least once a month, they'd be able to get in here to maybe get some of the other literature.
I think
So
that's
we
a
need
good
feedback
idea.
from the rest of the committee and the administration, whether there be any issues there.
No, I think that's a
Janice.
good idea. We have all the stuff in the lobby. It'd be great for people to look at?
We would need to have, or whether we have the door automatically open and close from one, open at 1 and then close at 3. Or having myself or one of the committee people to have the fob and be able to have the door wedged open.
I think we could definitely figure that out, go through committee, see if anyone else has thoughts on that, Mike.
If you've got to have a committee person, it's probably start with the fob rather than a time lock. Changing those just to see what the,
The flow is.
as a test program, advertise it, get the word out, put it in the beat, and see how it goes. And then if it's something there's interest, particularly in the better weather, spring, summer, that there's enough traffic that warrants it. And the endurance of the history board and the volunteers and the committee members coming in on Saturday. We'll see how long that goes.
Beverly, I guess they have their facility, they use the library, and
Right.
they have their display, so they have Saturday hours open over there from noon to 3 on the first Saturday of the month. Riverside, they have the museum. And then Delanco Township, I wasn't able to come up with what hours they're open on the weekends or on a Saturday. But
Riverside's open on Thursdays.
Thursdays,
The depot, yeah, they're open on Thursday, 9 to 12.
they also have Saturday hours from 10 to 2.
Yeah. You guys have any comments? You're okay with the opening?
I know, I think it's an excellent idea. See if people want to come in and browse around and see what we have.
Have at it.
Okay,
Yeah, it's
I'll
fine.
let them know. Thank you.
When do you think you will start that? The history board will start that? Or it hasn't been determined yet?
It has been determined, but if we're able to, maybe the third Thursday, I mean,
Right.
I keep saying Thursday, Saturday.
Right.
I don't know why I have Thursdays on my mind, but.
Come here Thursday.
Yeah, on the third Saturday of February,
Oh, you'll start that in February, okay. And what are the times again?
from 1 to 3.
Thank you.
All right.
And that's all I have.
All right, thank you very much.
So
Mike?
what we'll do on our facility calendar in the office, we'll block out that third Saturday, every third Saturday from 1 to 3 for the history board.
Okay.
Okay.
History board, open house.
Oh, open house for the displays.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you, Fern. Mr. Templeton?
All right, let's see if we can get through this. There's one item on the agenda tonight, Resolution 35, doing an amendment, appointing the prosecutor. Last Wednesday night's court session got off to a little bit of a bumpy start, but the good work of court administrator, or administration, Jennifer Esposito, and some background work by Mr. Heinhold, and I think Mrs. Lohr and Mr. Schwab were involved in that, but anyway, we'll get, reaffirm our prosecutor as appointed for the municipal court process. Been putting a lot of time on the new flood ordinance, since I was volunteer assigned for that job. I've got a bevy of emails from DEP with questions, and I've picked up a couple of adopted ordinances from other communities in New Jersey. Burlington County is one of the last areas of the state that's adopting this ordinance, the new flood ordinance, to replace the one that we did in 2017. And I've had some correspondence with our neighboring towns just to see what kind of additives that they're applying to what the state requires, what FEMA requires, and there's an option for the local communities to add whatever they want. One of our neighboring towns, and I don't know if it's reinforced based on what we experienced 2 weeks ago, but they're adding 4 feet to the base elevation of their flood maps. So the discussion on the bridge and so forth, probably the third or fourth time I've emailed the Bridge Commission with the suggestion for wireless electronic signs to be strategically mounted, posted at various intersections, Delanco, Riverside, out on Route 130, to advise motorists when the bridge is closed, so everyone doesn't get jammed into Riverside or into Delanco, and then we've got all backpedal to go the other direction. So I did get a reply that that was passed on to the Bridge Commission and went up to the county. So between a duckbill valve and electronic sign, maybe something will get solved to alleviate the burden of you getting a call and you getting a call that the bridge is closed and we got to run out with barricades and everything else. So we can only hope. And also, I've been following some of the affordable housing things going through the legislature. There's a bill going through the Assembly and the New Jersey, the Senate, State Senate, revising or replacing what used to be the Council on Affordable Housing. And one of the things that, since I had worked with Mrs. Martin and Mrs. Lohr on the Route 130 plan 2-3 years ago and so forth, was there were some significant errors in the data that Department of Community Affairs has, and tax records and so forth that the state has. And that's all part of the calculus that goes into determining an affordable housing obligation. And there were significant errors then, there are significant errors that still remain. And if there's a way that municipalities can get a look at that data before it goes through whatever is created out of this legislation, that we can get a realistic calculation rather than start on the other end, that whatever answer they've come up with for an assignment for the region as far as a prospective need for affordable housing, that gets filtered down to the communities, that we don't have to backpedal and say, well, this data is wrong, this data is inaccurate, this is outdated. They look at housing starts, they look at, actually they look at satellite data, imagery to see vacant open land. In the Route 130 report, Delanco shows up as 218 acres classified as vacant. Well, most of that is our parks, Pennington, Field of Dreams, West Avenue, and so forth. And so if we can get to a point where whatever entity is going to make these determinations, these calculations, that they're looking at reality, and rather than some garbage in, garbage out data collection that we've dealt with in the past. So I met with the tax assessor a couple of nights ago, and he gave me a rather large Excel file, so kind of combing through that just to validate some things, and just putting a little bit of elbow grease into it to try to put us in the best position. So anyway, that's all I got right now.
All right. Thank you very much, Mike. Ms. Fitzpatrick.
Thank you. The seniors met on January 9th at Dobbins, and the speaker discussed planning for the future, so you can enjoy your senior years and make sure your future plans are discussed and put into written documents that are acknowledged and accepted in New Jersey. The Sewer Authority also met on January 9th via Zoom. The properties to update Stylex, they received their permit from DEP for the SIU. 989 Coopertown Road, no change. They still have several items needed before requesting release of their performance bond. The trunk line project is underway. The TV work is started, and the manholes have been identified. So you'll be seeing people working around town. We're still waiting for the heating system to be converted to gas at the garage. The JIF insurance inspections are completed, and the operator's report is on file. The next meeting for the Sewer Authority will be held here on February 13th at 6:30 p.m. The Recreation Commission held their reorganization meeting on January 11th. The positions for the new year are as follows. The chairman is Phil McFadden. The vice chairman is Al Gravo. The secretary is Steve Jazz, and the treasurer is Maureen Hildebrand. The subcommittees for the events and activities were discussed and dates determined. Scott Taylor, our planner, presented a plan for the addition to the Vine Street Pocket Park, which included moving some of the existing plantings and adding some additional amenities such as a clock, picnic table, and benches. Once the cost estimates are received, it will be presented to the Township Committee before the project is submitted for the 2024 Local Recreation Grant, which is due on February 27th. And this week is a busy week coming up. We have the Youth Sports Association tomorrow night, Board of Ed Wednesday, the Hen Advisory Committee on Thursday, and Living Springs on Friday. So I will be busy this week. So thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Ms. Seuss.
The Joint Land Use Board meeting was canceled because of the weather, so they will meet for the reorg in, I think it's February 6th. The recreation meeting I attended as well, that Kate just reported on. I enjoyed Scott Taylor's presentation for the proposed Vine Street Park. I thought it was very well done, and great job to the subcommittee on that as well. That's all I have.
All right. In my report, I attended the Fire Company and Fire Commission meetings on December 18th and 27th, respectively. Normal business occurred. At the Fire Company meeting, the election of officers for 2024 took place, and the officers for this year are President Bill Trimble, Vice President Eric Zuber, Treasurer Terry Hamlin, Secretary myself, Trustees Lester Abrams, Kristen Cave, Joe Fox, Nick Hubler, and John Zuber. And your chief for 2024 is Scott Hamlin, Deputy Chief Lester Abrams, Captain Nick Hubler, and Lieutenants Chris Cave and Joe Fox, and Fire Police Lieutenant myself, and Chief Engineer Keith Mormon. I attended the Board of Ed meeting on December 20th. As I indicated in my December report, there were a number of items on the agenda for approval that were approved, mostly which included staff positions that should have been filled over the last number of years, and the district was required to provide but didn't. They were not funded in the present budget, and was previously indicated they would need to apply for a loan from the state in order to cover those items. One thing to note was the breakdown of the student population that was called out. We have 117 special needs students in the district, which amounts to 28% of the students, and the average in the state of New Jersey is 18%. I did inquire about the grant writer position that was supposed to be reposted. They were not sure where that was at, and as of today, it still is not reposted. They are going back to committee as a whole, so there will not be a work session meeting each month, just the regular monthly meeting, which happens to be this Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Needless to say, the last 2 weeks I've spent a lot of time out and about through town with the various storms that we've had and communicating with our residents. The January 9th storm, we had significant flooding in parts of town, which of course were along the river and the creek. As mentioned previously, I took numerous drives throughout the town, sometimes accompanied with Ms. Seuss, and the sheer amount of water coming in, as we discussed, just hasn't been seen before. I was in frequent contact with Mr. Fenimore on our cleanup efforts from both that event and from the snowstorm, and as always, as we said, our public works crews were right on top of everything, and I will thank them yet again. John, please pass on our thanks to all the guys working for you. And thanks for the officers as well for keeping up with all the closures. See, I mentioned we worked on the communication on the closures, and let's see, what else? I met with Mrs. Russell last week, and we spent some time putting together information for the county's hazardous mitigation plan update. And needless to say, we put flooding in there as a hot topic or cold topic, as the case may be. And finally, over the last month, I spent a lot of time testing, retesting, troubleshooting, and any other verb you could imagine with getting our meetings on a one-way stream to the public, and using my various backgrounds in broadcast engineering, we're live streaming tonight on YouTube. The whole town as a whole, the town as a whole, since COVID started, we tried to find a way to do that. It would be a full hybrid solution so the residents could participate in the meeting. And due to various challenges with affordability or lack thereof, and responding vendors or lack thereof, that was never completed. But this most certainly is an effective and no-cost way for our residents to at least see and hear what happens in these walls. And once the stream is over, it'll be saved automatically on YouTube in the same manner that we've been uploading the audio from the meetings. We tried Facebook Live for a reorg meeting, but while it worked out, the audio was low and it didn't allow the widest amount of people to view it unless you had a Facebook account. So now on YouTube, anyone who has access to the internet could watch us right here. No membership or anything else is needed. So hopefully that's working tonight.
Good job setting that up, man.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Very good.
All right, consent agenda items. The consent agenda items are considered to be routine and will be enacted with a single motion. Any item requiring discussion will be removed from the consent agenda. All consent agenda items will be reflected in full in the minutes. Anyone have anything they want to remove from the consent agenda?
I guess a clarification from Mr. Schwab or Mrs. Lohr on the resolution regarding the prosecutor, 35. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The sixth whereas, our prosecutor, Mr. G, was telephonically present in the court proceedings. The docket was completed. It seems to imply that we had no prosecutor that evening.
Yeah, I think Doug wasn't aware of that when he wrote this, so at the time, we didn't know that was what was going to happen. So it's up to you how you, I mean, the whereases are, I guess,
Well, it's a formality, I mean, is there any reason why we wouldn't do it?
yeah, I think it's a question whether we should change any of the whereases if they don't describe exactly what happened.
So there was a prosecutor present?
No.
Not, the judge apparently was able to communicate with
He was present
Mr.
on the
G.
phone,
on the phone.
as
Yeah.
all the individuals that had a summons to court were present on the phone.
Okay, so maybe
So-
just revise it to say the prosecutor was present via telephone, not physically?
I don't think that makes a difference. He was present, because the public defender is often not there in person either.
I think the purpose of all this is because this resolution is what Doug will use to make sure that
If they're present.
Malmut knows why
Yeah.
we're doing this.
Yes,
Because they're the ones who promised they'd send somebody and did not.
right, so I think it's a formality that we should okay, so that it is sent to them.
Yeah, certainly it should, whether you want to change any of the whereases.
Maybe just put in there at the end of the, that sixth whereas clause, the court was able to continue by the judge telephonically getting Mr. G on the telephone. Just to, I think that would clarify anything in that statement.
Yeah,
Our prosecutor, Mr. G, performed his duties at our court session last Wednesday night.
by phone.
So instead, as best as possible, the prosecutor present, that prosecutor, Mr. G, was available by phone.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, we'll clean that up.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay.
Anything else anyone has for the consent, or we're good?
No, we're good.
All right. Ordinance 2024-01, calendar year 2024, model ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank, NJSA 40A:4-45.14. First reading by title only, and to set public hearing date for February 26, 2024 at 7 o'clock p.m. Resolution 2024-31, authorize appropriation reserve transfer. Resolution 2024-32, resolution of the Township of Delanco and the County of Burlington, State of New Jersey, appointing temporary entry-level law enforcement officer under the alternate route hiring process. Resolution 2024-33, resolution authorizing the Township of Delanco through the Township of Delanco Police Department to participate in the Defense Logistics Agency Law Enforcement Support Office 1033 program to enable the Township of Delanco Police Department to request and acquire excess Department of Defense equipment. Resolution 2024-34, resolution authorizing the Burlington County Division of Mosquito Control to conduct aerial, larval, and adult mosquito control activities and authorizing execution of a municipal agreement form. And Resolution 2024-35, resolution amending Resolution 2024-11, appointing prosecutor. Payment of bills, current fund $108,251.24, payroll $93,918.72, escrow trust fund $21,877.25, approval of department reports. We have a motion for the approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion by Carolyn, second by Mike. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Patrick?
Yes.
Mr. Olet?
Yes.
Ms. Seuss? Yes. Mr. Templeton?
Yes.
Mr. Bartlett?
Yes. Sound like you wanted to chime in there with something, Fern?
Oh, I was just noting the added language
With the 35?
2024-35, paragraph 6.
Got it. Thank you. All right, appointments. Hen Advisory Board, one-year term expiring December 31st, 2024.
We forgot to put it on the reorg.
Yeah.
It's the first time we've had to
Okay.
do that, so that's why it's here.
Thank you, Richard. Suzanne Perez, Lynn Fulton, Michael Villano, Milena Correa, and Jess Knight. The motion.
So moved.
One second.
All right, motion by Kate, second by Carolyn. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Patrick?
Yes.
Mr. Olet?
Yes.
Ms. Seuss? Yes. Mr. Templeton?
Yes.
Mr. Bartlett?
Yes. Correspondence, Janice.
Just the two things that Richard already talked about. The first one, we received notice from the state regarding its redevelopment update. And the second one was just the receipt of the permit from the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection for 410 linear feet of vinyl bulkhead. And that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Meeting is now open to the public for comments and questions. This is session number 2. As with session number 1, if you have anything, please come up to the podium and give your name and address for the record. Meeting's open to the public. All right, seeing no one, meeting is closed to the public. Discussion items, recreation grant program, process status. Is that you, Janice, or Richard?
That's Richard.
Yeah, I can talk about just, I asked to put it on because we received a couple things going on. And as Kate pointed out from Rec, that the plan for Vine Street Park changes are going to be hopefully completed, and therefore we expect that at your meeting on the 5th, Scott Taylor could be here to present it to you. And the issue was applying for a grant. We just got notified recently that this year's state recreation facility grant is available and due by February 27th. Earlier, there was some discussion about the Green Acres grant, which was due February 7th, but I pointed out that that's a loan, it's not a grant,
Right.
and it's mainly aimed, actually both of them are aimed more at areas that are in greater need perhaps, but so for the state recreation grant, we received money the first 2 years. First year, we did the well at Field of Dreams, and we received a grant to do the work at the Babe Ruth Field, particularly the overlay of the basketball courts. That has not been moved along because the cost to do that is significantly higher than the grant. So it'll be discussed as part of our budget process as to whether or not we want to still go ahead with it, because we're going to need local funds that originally wasn't anticipated. There was some minor changes about where the location of the pathway is going to be and where the area where the handicap spaces and those. So there's some minor changes that were done, and the engineer hasn't formally drawn them out, but the main thing deals with the fact that the cost for the overlay is just significantly higher than what was estimated. So that'll be discussed. The issue then, in terms of your process, if the plan is that if you're happy with what is presented next meeting on Gateway, if that's where you're headed for applying, using that project for your grant, because of the timetable, we have to be prepared to do a resolution probably at the next meeting at the latest. So we have to be prepared for it. I want to make sure that that's the direction we're headed, just so that we don't accidentally miss the date, because we administratively don't know where we're headed for that. I also want to point out, if you look carefully at the recreation grant program, it emphasizes activity. If you remember, this money is ARPA money, which came from COVID, and the goal then was to get people outside where they couldn't catch the disease. And so the aim was trying to prove that the money is going to be spent on outside active parks. It's aimed for that. And so therefore, we had to convince them that good turf at the Field of Dreams would be something that allow better use of an active park. The basketball court, clearly, that's active stuff. So that's one of the things to think about when you're making the application as to what you're going to make the application for. If Gateway is more of a passive park.
It's
Vine Street, I'm sorry, Vine Street. So you have to think about where that's going to score. But I don't know what our other alternatives are involved. We were talking once about 200 Ash, talk about other things. But the question becomes, are those passive parks, active parks? So it may be that you decide, no, that's what we want to try for. But I'm just pointing out that because it's not active recreation park, as I understand it, and because we haven't completed using their money for last year's grant yet, perhaps our chance of getting the grant is not as high as we would think otherwise. So I'm just mentioning that so that you're prepared to think it through and not make any assumptions that we'll get the grant at this point in time, if that's where you're headed for Gateway. I'm sorry, for Vine Street.
Part of Vine Street now, the way that it's been proposed, is to have an open area so that if some kids want to throw a football or what have you, they can do it.
Okay, so
The
may
other
work.
thing is adding tables, picnic tables, chairs, like benches, so that it will move people to be able to sit there, especially if they're going to the ice cream bar and they can go across the street and have their, so it's going to be a more active park than passive. They're trying to make it more
All right.
active.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'm just pointing that out as I read the specs,
I
that's all.
think that's the
The grant
goal,
specs.
to have people filter through there.
Right.
So that's some of the changes in the vegetation that exists. They're going to be moving that, having a more open area, and hopefully people will enjoy it. They're not doing as much on that new section because that's, kind of scary when you think about the way the cars go around the curve and what have you. So we're going to open up the other area and have a clock sort of like in the central section. But I think it will be more active if, the way Scott explained it.
That's something you're going to ask him. I just want to point out that if you assume that, if there's other alternatives in your mind that might fit the grant better, but it's also very important that when you make an application for grants, you have the plans and the numbers, for good or for bad, in terms of
Right,
the
that's
basketball
right.
courts.
Yeah.
We submitted the numbers and they said fine, but it turned out the numbers weren't right. So I'm not sure where we are. I just want to make sure that you make the decision. There's no right or wrong. We don't know. I don't make the decision whether it gets approved or not. I'm just want to make sure that you're aware of what the standards are and have read that, so that when you make your decision, you make it, you know, full knowledge. That's all.
The only other thing that would be even an option would be to install the playground equipment behind the Field of Dreams Pavilion.
Right.
And that, we spoke to Scott about, would be a relatively quick quote just from a playground equipment company. There wouldn't be too much planning involved, so, you know, as a backup, we have that option.
Okay.
Yeah, so my question is, can we submit that as part of this grant, as an attachment to this?
You mean two separate ones?
Yeah.
Either, like an either or.
Yeah, I don't know, Scott could tell you that. I think that's what we did last time they gave us the well, as opposed to something else we looked at. So it's possible, but
I think we had the playground equipment on there. Did
yeah,
do
so
it
if we
at
have that
time?
information, that's the kind of thing to have that discussion with Scott about. He'll know better than I will.
Okay.
But I just want to make sure, I didn't want
I'll
to
check with him because
get to a
I'm
point,
following.
if we had a couple months, then we could have plenty of time, but, you know, you have to kind of make a decision at the next meeting, that that's where we're going for, so we can do the paperwork for your following meeting, which is the 26th, I believe, and it's due on the 27th at 5 o'clock.
Cutting it close.
So we might want to have maybe it prepared, if you're ready to go on the 5th, maybe we could have the resolution,
Yeah,
just in case you're ready to go, and if not, we'll fill in the blanks there, maybe, figure out how to do that.
We have 2 meetings in February, so, but
Yeah, but the February meeting is not till the 26th
26th,
because
it's
of the holiday,
the
President's
first
Weekend.
one's the 5th, yeah.
So we got 5th and 26th is due by 5 o'clock on the 27th, I believe.
Yeah, it's the 27th.
Have you guys had a chance to look at the storyboard of the mock-up?
I did not.
Okay. It's in the judge's chamber.
Phil,
Oh.
I have a question. Do you think that Rec would like us to include the playground at the Field of Dreams as an additional, like an either or do you want to just stay with the one grant?
I had this discussion with Scott Taylor on Thursday night at our meeting. He, again, brought up the recreational part where he didn't think that we would qualify too much for Vine Street. So he was seeking the alternative. And then I had suggested that we clump everything together.
Right.
We do Vine Street, we do Gateway, the 414 Ranch Oaks property, and the playground equipment along with soccer goals. And he recommended that we decide on one or the other. We feel.
Yeah, either Gateway or Vine Street, both of them are pretty much passive, although we're inviting additional people.
And it's only up to $100,000, so it's not a ton of money.
Yeah,
The average is 60, which is
yeah,
kind of what we
yeah,
got.
that's the problem. Okay, so maybe we should just stick with this one because it seems like, I don't know, I thought Rec passed it to move forward with this one. They did a motion, I was there. Okay, I just wanted to
Yeah,
ask
you
you
can make an
about.
application. If you don't get it, then you decide whether you're going to finance it yourself for next year or not.
My
Okay.
concern, and this is part of this, is I don't understand why we haven't spent the money from the first round.
Because,
Usually, Delanco and the Recreation Commission, when we get a grant, we spend the money, it's done, it's over with. That's why we were so grateful when it was.
The county
real
grants,
grant.
yeah.
They would funnel money because we were spending it, not seeing it.
Yeah, but this is a state, it's a different,
But it's still a grant that, because we haven't spent what they gave us last time, could be a mark on.
correct. Because the cost, we got quotes for the overlay, and they're significantly more than what the grant is.
yeah. it's a lot
So
more.
that's why it's got to be part of the capital budget process.
But like the overlay, we did, for the basketball courts to be put to the side, we should have, in my opinion, I'm not an expert, it should have been put to the side and proceeded and finish up the project as planned with the sidewalk and had all that done.
Will they pay for just that? Just for?
Yeah,
the
I don't know that they'll do that, but,
Yeah.
you know, if we did those, that's a small piece of it, and we don't finish what we did, we'd have to go back to them and say, is it okay if we do the little parts and not the big part? We haven't, But that's the kind of thing we need to talk to Scott about, that's stuff we need to talk about in budget, but that's why it isn't done. But you're right, Phil, that we won't look as good because we haven't completed it when we make this application. So I think our chance of getting it may not be as high as we might have thought otherwise. But sometimes you say, okay, well, give it a try. What's the worst case? Nothing worse than not trying. So,
Yeah, the other grants were from the county, and they were a lot easier to deal with than the state.
but yet, in fact, we still have leftover money from a county grant that we're talking about using for the pathways in front and the pathway and the fencing and so on, because the cost of the event lawn came out less than what we got the grant for because it was a guest to it.
Right.
And so therefore, and there's some stuff that Mary Pat said I wanted to charge, we couldn't, but we could do it for this, not for, So they're much more flexible, there's no question dealing with county money than dealing with state people. But in some cases, we didn't get that done for almost 2 years after we got the grant because they're more complicated and larger.
And it's reimbursement too, right?
Yes, reimbursement.
Yeah.
Correct, it's all reimbursement stuff. So anyhow, so my belief is that what we'll do is we'll prepare a resolution and we'll have it ready, and then you can decide what to do. We can have in blank or with that park and see if you want to decide you've changed. We can always handwrite it in and so on, because I'm concerned about doing the resolution in your meeting on the 26th when it's due the next day.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, and I'll
It's
check
always
with
not a good
Scott
idea,
to
so I'd
make
like to
sure
be
he has
prepared.
everything, that he's
I'd like to be
available.
prepared. Okay.
Okay.
All right. That was what I wanted to have this discussion with you on.
Thank you, Richard. Anyone have anything?
And also, you can have the Officer of the Year presentation at your next meeting also, February 5th meeting.
Perfect.
Great.
And the Chief will be in charge of that, so that'll probably be at the beginning of the meeting. And then we'll then Scott will do his thing after that, okay?
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Richard.
Trying to keep on top of these projects as well.
Very good.
Okay,
Anyone
I'm
else
done.
have anything for this evening?
We can go home.
Vern, Mike, Kate?
Nope.
Nope.
Nope, everything's good.
John? Oh, John does.
Yeah, that was a good blast about asking the residents to get their cars off of the street. It worked very good.
Yeah.
Now we have to work on the basketball courts that are in the way. So,
Oh, in the street you're talking about?
Can the police officers ticket for them?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
All right, if they're in John's way, let's get them done.
but moving the cars, in the wintertime, I think it's good that they get them off, the street. They have to put them in the backyard, then fine, just for the wintertime, just to get the cars off, because it makes a big, big difference.
Right.
Yeah. And also thanks to the residents who got their sidewalks cleared right away. I went out that evening, lost track of what day it was, I guess Friday evening. And most of the residents had them cleared. There was one block, one long street along the river that should remain nameless that wasn't cleared too well, but the majority of the town looked pretty good, so thanks to the residents
Well, you
for
have
that.
12 hours of daylight following the storm to do that, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep, and even after that, 24 hours, 36 hours, there was a lot that wasn't cleared. And if residents who are able to, you're able to help your neighbors. If you have an elderly neighbor, be a nice thing to do.
It was definitely better the second storm than the first storm. The first storm, there was a lot of Burlington Avenue that was not done, which concerned me with the kids walking to school, and it was very icy. But the second storm, it looks like everybody kind of did a better job, so that was
Yeah.
good.
All right, I don't think we have a need for another executive session. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right, Carolyn and Fern, all in favor?
Aye.
Oh, aye, it was Kate.
Everyone? Okay.
That was me.
Fern,
I
Kate,
don't know,
okay.
am I sounding like Fern?
We're all going home, it's all right. Thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah, I love my